15th edition of Back Roads of Illinois. We were Central Illinois agriculture sources for the Midwest alongside in Central Illinois agriculture. We're glad you're here on Back Roads of Illinois. I talked with some farmers in Central Illinois near Peoria and Macon. They are pretty wet in Central Illinois. Otherwise, this acreage report on June 30th, we will see the acreage is shifting to corn and beans for this report. Potential to planting corn in the next few weeks. I've been watching the Farm Bill in Washington. Republicans and Democrats are working to resolve the issues that they are working with SNAP program and CPR program, dairy margin program. Democrats were voted down for the CPR program by Senator Stabenow from Michigan. I have the crop progress report from Iowa, Minnesota. We are watching the weather in those states. I am wondering if anyone has proven to be prevented from the field in Iowa and Minnesota, Nebraska. Yeah, they've been wetter conditions in the Midwest. This is your agricultural news and markets information on Back Roads of Illinois. President Joe Biden put tariffs to China for Tuesday afternoon. The president put tariffs to China. However, the soybean futures finished and down 8 to 9 cents per bushel for tariffs by President Biden. McDonald's went risen down for their own hamburgers and demand. Demand estimate reported in lower than previously years since 2018 because the food costs is pretty high by the inflation rate. The weather forecast for this weekend is going to pretty decent and dry in the Midwest alongside in Central Plains. This is your commodity markets update. Corn futures finished in down 3 to 6 cents. Soybean futures finished in up 3 to 2 cents. Wheat futures finished in down 7 to 8 cents. Now that we are going to talk about the livestock market for today on this morning, cattle finished in down 3 to 2 cents. Feeder cattle finished in down 3 to 4 cents per weight. Lean hogs markets finished in down 8 to 10 cents per weight. We were coming back with the crop conditions in Iowa and Minnesota. And we were going to listen to Mac Marshall from the United Soybean Board coming next.
This is Melissa Couch, agricultural statistician for the USDA NASS Iowa Field Office with the weekly crop progress and condition report for the week ending May 12, 2024. Rain across Iowa early in the week held farmers to just 1.7 days suitable for field work during the week ending May 12, 2024, according to the USDA National Agricultural Statistics Service. Iowa farmers reported planting corn, soybeans, and applying pesticides late in the week. Topsoil moisture condition rated 1% very short, 7% short, 71% adequate, and 21% surplus. Subsoil moisture condition rated 4% very short, 17% short, 67% adequate, and 12% surplus. 57% of Iowa's expected corn crop has been planted, 1 week behind last year and 5 days behind the 5-year average. 26% of the corn crop has emerged. Iowa's farmers have planted 39% of Iowa's expected soybean crop, 1 week behind last year and 4 days behind the normal. 13% of the soybean crop has emerged. 98% of the expected oat crop has been planted, while emergence reached 81%, 2 days ahead of last year and 5 days ahead of the 5-year average. There were reports of oats headed in isolated areas of the state. Hay condition rated 1% very poor, 2% poor, 20% fair, 62% good, and 15% excellent. There were a few reports of producers beginning their first cutting of hay. Pasture condition rate is 67% good to excellent. Cattle feedlots were muddy due to rain received over the past 4-week period. For the USDA NASS Iowa Field Office, this is Melissa Couch.
Trade was looking primarily for a cut to that Brazilian production, which USDA maintained at 155 million tons for this year. What's notable about that to me is that that figure is markedly higher than the figures that are coming out of Brazil itself. CONAB, their statistical agency, had issued an additional cut. I think their estimate is 146.5 million tons. So pretty significant gap between where the USDA figure is and where the Brazilian market has it.
McMarshall from the United Soybean Board. He said that 155 million ton of soybean from Brazil. Max say we see a poor yield to the beans.
Specific to the U.S., the one notable change we had there outside of a slight reduction in price was a cut to exports by 20 million bushels. And you see that carried over as part of the 25 million bushel increase in carryout. So that's again weighing on the market here in the U.S.
The CONBA is showing that 136.5 million ton for this year in Brazil since December.
I think as anything to take away from this, there's definitely things hanging over the whole bean market right now in the U.S. in terms of that large Brazilian crop, those headwinds on exports, but crush continues to be strong overall as margins have come back. And with that, we're continuing to export a lot of meal, and that's certainly beneficial for maintaining value for the soy complex overall.
There is reduction in the prices on 20 million bushel for the U.S. soybean to export.
Marshall, Vice President of Market Intelligence for the United Soybean Board, says the market was looking for a cut in Brazil's soybean production.
Trade was looking primarily for a cut to that Brazilian production, which USDA maintained at 155 million tons for this year. What's notable about that to me is that that figure is markedly higher than the figures that are coming out of Brazil itself. CONAB, their statistical agency, had issued an additional cut. I think their estimate is 146.5 million tons. So pretty significant gap between where the USDA figure is and where the Brazilian market has it.
The notable factor in the U.S. numbers was a cut in exports, possibly due in part to the higher Brazilian soybean harvest.
Specific to the U.S., the one notable change we had there outside of a slight reduction in price was a cut to exports by 20 million bushels. And you see that carried over as part of the 25 million bushel increase in carryout. So that's again weighing on the market here in the U.S.
Marshall talks about the main takeaways from the report.
I think as anything to take away from this, there's definitely things hanging over the whole bean market right now in the U.S. in terms of that large Brazilian crop, those headwinds on exports, but crush continues to be strong overall as margins have come back. And with that, we're continuing to export a lot of meal, and that's certainly beneficial for maintaining value for the soy complex overall.
Keep up with the latest news from the United Soybean Board at unitedsoybean.org. Chad Smith reporting.
Thanks to Chad Smith from National Farm Broadcasters Association in Platte, Missouri for this audio. Thanks for Office of the Department of Agriculture in Iowa and Minnesota. Well, folks, there's our show for today. Thanks to listen on today's show. For Back Roads of Illinois, I am Cesar Delgado. Have a good weekend.